Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, he is a first-time guest, but this is not the first time I've spoken to this person. Although, gun to my head, if you told me, have we ever had a conversation about sports? Forget the Knicks. If we ever had a conversation about sports before, I don't know that I'd be able to give a reliable answer.
No. The answer is
probably
no.
not. The answer is no. Okay. Probably because, like, if you were on the Hearn, you talked about a lot of things. Sports.
I am so. First off, I
have to introduce you. Hold on.
I hate that I'm jumping in on your own show, but I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, he works for ESPN. You've probably heard of it. Host of ESPN Daily. He's amazing. Pablo Torre. Hello, sir.
John Macri. How long has it been?
I've been really bad at going to jug nights over the years. I don't know if you've been any better. That would have been the natural happenstance where we would have run into each other. I know you did the panel though for the people in sports media a year ago. Yeah.
Sure.
But that was a virtual event.
That was a virtual event. We're dilly-dallying. We're kind of circling the truth here, which is that we both, long before we ever wound up working in sports, you and me, we were on the same speech and debate team in high school. And it was called the Hearn. It was our football team. It was the most popular sport at Regis High School. And I just remember you and Andrew, I don't know if you know this about John, but just a truly talented, phenomenal performer, like an actor. You would
checks
do these
in the
events.
mail, Pablo.
No,
really?
But I would watch him perform these pieces, dramatic, comedic, and I'm like, this is the future voice of the Knicks internet, is what I said to myself at the time. Yeah.
I'm still performing comedic pieces on here almost daily.
So you're saying the bits about RJ Barrett and Julius Randle are a performance then, Pablo?
That's right. That's
gotcha.
Right. Wait, John, name a piece that you performed in high school, if you could, just to give a sense of, like, for me, of like what I would have remembered you doing, because I feel like you did some like heavy shit, but some funny shit, and you may have done it like in a duo interpretation context, which is a term that all speech and debate nerds know. But
man, there are people listening out there who are like, speech and debate, like what? Like, what even is that? And
of course,
if we were to describe it in full, people would think that we were making it up, because it is so ridiculous when you actually
extraordinarily
say
ridiculous.
You stand in front of a room with a little binder, and you don't read from the binder, mind you. You hold the binder and you turn the pages as if you are reading from it, but not actually reading.
So I did debate real quick. The acting, the binder stuff was all John Macri. Yeah.
Pablo couldn't hold the binder was too much for Pablo.
Too intimidating.
Yes, it was. Pablo, I'm burying the lead here, which is before he became one of the faces of a global brand. Pablo was a debater, a high school debater of some renown. Let me tell you, when you were a senior at our high school and you were on the Hearn and you knew a freshman's name, freshman was doing something right. So yeah, you did a few things right, Pablo. I'll just say that.
This is my favorite and also definitely the saddest introduction that I've ever received. And I could not be more grateful. Thank you.
It's the least I could do. I'm struggling to remember a name of a piece that I did that you would have seen. I think I was going to say,
you didn't do like
swimming with sharks.
Swimming with. Oh, okay.
With
right.
Oh my goodness, was it Alan? Could you imagine if he's listening? Alan Hotchner.
Alan Hotchner.
Yes.
Oh
that name
boy. Oh boy.
Shout out Alan if you're out there.
Just the acting talent on Staten Island in the early 2000s.
I don't think hold on. I don't think he was from Staten Island.
Oh, really?
Colin, obviously.
Oh, yeah. We don't have to. Story. Colin Jost, he doesn't need to be mentioned here. But no, we are. I am profiling all of my Italian American classmates as just entirely from Staten Island. So
as apologies. You should. I remember the first ever debates I had in Regis were as a freshman debating with kids from Jersey about whose locale smelled more, the Staten Island because of the dump, or Jersey just being Jersey.
That's right. Fresh kills, respect the legacy. Yeah.
That should be the new slogan. I don't know why we've been going on about this. We're here to talk about something other that yes, it's your fault. Other than this, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Knicks before I let you go. But first and foremost, you are part of something. It hasn't premiered yet, but it will be premiering shortly. A documentary about still a young man, as far as I'm concerned. He's younger than us. A young man by the name of Jeremy Lin, who came and kind of took the world by storm a little bit more than a decade ago. And you are part of this documentary, 38 at the Garden, which again is going to be on HBO. Had a chance to watch it a few weeks ago. Andrew and I had a chance to watch it at the premiere at HBO headquarters a couple nights ago. I can't speak highly enough of it, but I'm going to do that in the intro. I just want to get right to you and this thing, which is to ask, how did you get involved? Did someone go seek you out, or like, how did this all start?
Yeah. So one of my claims to some minor fame is that I have just been a barnacle on the leg of Jeremy Lin. And so I covered him when he was a senior at Harvard. When I had just graduated, I covered him a number of times throughout his NBA career, certainly for Sports Illustrated during Linsanity, wrote 2 cover stories on him, which is its own insane thing. The point is, I had been bothering this man for years for interviews, many of which he granted, many of which understandably he did not. But for this one, he reached out to me and said, I'd like you to participate in this. Oh, and wow. I said, of course. Like, it's insane that this story is still so resonant to me personally, to so many people, as I think the film does a really good job of conveying. But, I had begged Jeremy unsuccessfully to like do a book project, at one point I wanted him to like dress in disguise and go to a basketball court and play strangers. Like, for all of the dumb requests I made of him over the years, it was just a really nice thing for him to ask me to talk about just some of the things that I witnessed in the course of those dumb and occasionally successful requests.
I'm happy you brought up the old SI days, because you had a line in there. I want to say it was from his mom. And this is, again, before Linsanity ever was a word anybody knew, about how he's, oh my God, I'm missing. It was Mr. So, but someone like that was always underrated. And that was back then, before he ever was on any NBA radar.
Right. I mean, I knew his parents from doing that story. I forget what Mr. Improbable. Yeah, something. No, it's ringing bells in my brain too. It's been 10 years. More
than 10 years, like 12, 13.
Yeah, right. Now we're talking October, of course. Jesus. But I knew his parents, and so like when I was at SI and this story with the Knicks began to unfold, like I was the one guy who had an in with his family and him, to be honest. And Knicks PR, shout out to the former head of PR, Jonathan Sopranowicz, who roadblocked me at every possible turn. But I had this job, and he did it so well, specifically that job for so many years. But I had an in with Jeremy and his family. And so when the Frank Isolas of the world, and I've gotten to know and work with Frank since then through ESPN. But when he was chasing the tabloid guys, the real New York beat guys were on this story chasing it, I think they very also understandably began to resent me because I was just like the guy with this pretext for a story that everybody wanted, but no one could really get to the center of. And I just, through sheer barnacle luck and happenstance, ended up being that person.
So the doc does such a great job of setting it up, going through the fact that he, based on his accolades in high school, and correctly, I think, implying that like, had he looked differently than he did, if you give someone with literally everything else, measurables, all the same things, I don't know, would he have been a first round pick, but would have gotten drafted, certainly.
Yes.
And so it sets it all up, getting, he tried to latch on with the Warriors. That didn't work out. Rockets didn't work out. Knicks, leading up to the first game where he gets time against the then New Jersey Nets, I think, or maybe they were in Brooklyn. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Nobody cares about the Nets. As we were getting up to that Nets game, had you had contact with him? Any inkling that something maybe he'd be getting a chance, or were you just like a fan watching that night like everybody else?
I want to actually see in my text how far they go back, because I'm fairly certain that like even Jeremy Lin guy like had given up on just expecting something like this to happen.
Okay.
And I say that because I would definitely check in at the beginning of the season, because I don't know at that point, I did not know many NBA players in the league. But the fact is, all of this was fucking surreal, man. Like I remember as soon as the Nets game happened, he gets off the bench and I'm like, well, time to see where this goes. Never ever thinking that it would go where it did. And God, yeah, just a couple of, nothing in here that proves that I saw this coming is what I just confirmed for you. Yeah.
So you're watching that game, and then one game turns into two, and two turns into three, and then it eventually leads up to the focus of the documentary, which is the performance against the Lakers. As Linsanity is unfolding, again, you talk on the documentary so eloquently about what it meant for you in the moment and the experience watching that, here, in New York and everything. Behind the scenes, like, were you at some point, did you hear from him? And was like, and what was that like?
Yes, I was desperately trying to figure out how to cover this, because I knew this was going to be my story, my assignment. I was the only one who had access to him. And I immediately was just like, I don't want to do this in some sort of like short form format. Yeah. What I wanted to do was like pitch him on like a long sit down. Like I almost wanted to escape the news cycle, because these games were happening and it was just escalating. And again, the debut, for all of the whatever water anyone wants to throw on it, in retrospect, like his debut as a starter was up there with Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson.
Oh.
Like it's just statistically in terms
That's
of
real.
First, it's real. It's so that happening made me kind of panic, and I was just like, I want to disengage from the chaos. I want to get him to do the long sit down. I don't want to go and just like write off of one game and do it. And inevitably, I push for this with my editors, and they're like, okay, they don't really believe it's going to have legs anyway. Okay. And then we get up to the Laker game, to the whole like night of the game. That is the focus, the conceit of the doc. And it's just clear that I'm going to have to write this cover story for Sports Illustrated. And I am like begging Jonathan Safranowicz, can I get access to him? I'm texting him. Can I just get in touch with him? Because he's telling me stuff, but it's off the record, because he's trying to be a good employee. He's like never had attention before. He's trying to be a good Nick. He's trying to do what you guys want. And he is not budging. And I'm offering literally like, I will tutor your children for the SAT. Like, what do you need me to do? And this does not work either. And so I'm like seeing him after games, but we can't actually get on the record. And so it's one of the weirdest just reporting experiences, where all of that leads up to me turning around a cover story because he drops fucking 38 on the Lakers at the Garden. And everybody has to reckon with this being just a thing, capital A, capital T now.
The first two consecutive covers, which I don't know how many times that's been done in the history of Sports Illustrated, but I know it's not many.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine. And this is what I really wanted to ask you more than anything, because you, at that point, I mean, obviously you're working for Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated is, biggest sports entity in the country still at that point. And this is your profession. And this is, I guess in some ways you had to see this not as a break, because you were already, you had already made it, but this is big.
Oh, but yeah.
At the same time, though, you're a fan of what's going on. And again, you spoke eloquently about this on the doc, which everybody should go watch when it comes out. But you're experiencing this on a different level. So what was that dichotomy like for you at the time?
It was very strange. It was the sort of surreal, because look, it's the most surreal story I've ever covered, ever seen, have ever imagined, that run. And the fact that I knew him, the fact that I'm Asian American, I'm Filipino, the fact that I was born and raised in Manhattan, like not far from Madison Square Garden, walking distance, like grew up ancestrally a Knicks fan. Like it's the sort of story where it's like, it's incredibly it's incredibly narcissistic to think this way, but I think we all sometimes do. It's like, am I the main character in this movie? Like, this is all happening to me.
I love
like
that.
This is about me now. And of course it's not, but it was hard to disentangle all those feelings. The thing that saved, I think, just the idea of how to report and write this story, though, because there was reporting and writing to actually do. Like, magazine readers of SI didn't give a shit that I felt this way personally. These are not first person essays, but that was the backdrop as you sussed out. What saved it was, I think, just the idea that this was just a celebration. Yeah. You know, like, for as much as there would be, and we would, Jeremy and I talk about more complicated things down the road, the idea of introduction and celebration in one breath, and getting to channel some of that through journalism is not a thing the Columbia School of Journalism, which I did not attend, would ever recommend. But it's definitely something that I think if you read that story, you can sort of see between the lines just how goosebumpy the whole thing was for me.
And the crazy thing, and again, I've watched the doc twice and through it, and I'm not sure if you know. I think I told you. Jeremy Lin interview is dropping later this week, but I conducted it a few weeks ago, and I was preparing for that, and I was trying to grapple with my own experience back then as obviously a white American Knicks fan, watching this and be like, how did I engage with the Asian American part then? And like, I remember the first time, obviously, he came on my radar. I was like, oh, he doesn't look like most players that I see in uniform.
No.
But and again, this may be revisionist history because we all revise history in our own minds as things go on. But I felt like that dropped off for me, that part of it. Not dropped off altogether, but like, I just cared about the magic carpet ride as the suffering Knicks fan.
Yeah.
And, right. You know, and it's like looking back now, and thinking about that part of it. And then again, the doc, for anybody who doesn't know, it really does focus on the fact that he, you know, knocked down a lot of barriers. And even to this day, that is such an important story to have happened. So like, how do you grapple with that now, looking back?
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things before, right? Like, just the stereotyping, the caricaturing, which became explicit and awful in terms of just like people seemingly unknowingly just like making racist jokes online and just like classic, just like Asian shit. But beyond that, right, like the guy measured as like the quickest person that Mike D'Antoni and the Knicks had like worked out. And just that never really came across. Why, you might ask? Well, that's one of them. Going back to his college and high school days too. He won a state championship in California, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing about the Knicks experience and race to me, I remember thinking, I mean, this is something that I think, pretty in tune with from the start, was just like the beating heart of the story to me is race. And it's not the only one, but there are so many threads there. The Harvard thing, the Knick thing, the D-League thing, getting cut
and they're
twice.
Inextricably intertwined.
Yes. And so you tug on one and all of them start to like really reveal themselves. But I just knew that for Jeremy, like that was the way that he always had to navigate the world, was through that lens first and foremost. Before the other stuff, the D-League, Harvard stuff came across, like that was always how he felt himself, because he was the ultimate minority. Like there just hasn't been an Asian American character. And I use the word character deliberately like that. Character in the sense of a celebrity, a famous person, a person for others to project their inner monologues onto. I mean, it was wild, dude. Like I remember at one point at the peak of it, it was like, oh, here is the tabloid rumor about Kim Kardashian wanting to take Jeremy out to, I'm just like, what is happening? Like he's getting to check that box of just like ensnared in insane tabloid rumor. He is somebody who is being, like stalked. He could not reveal where he was staying. I mean, he had to lie about that. He was sort of incognito. It was both an amazing, unprecedented thing for an Asian American to experience, not just in basketball, but just in celebrity at all. And specifically for an Asian dude, right? Like that was the other part of this story. And like so much of the film, I think, establishes this, like what he meant for a demographic that is oftentimes just emasculated as a concept, like never the prom king, never the jock, never the alpha in that stereotypical language. He ended up being that in a way that we had literally never seen in American culture, in Hollywood, in sports, in anything, media. And it was him. And when you can feel the gravitational pull from millions and billions of human beings who all see that, the other demographics begin to, I think, shrink a little in that context. So I had always seen it through that way because I felt it.
And it's funny that you use the word character, now I can't speak, character, because on the doc you bring up, now we have a Asian Marvel superhero, and like, that's meaningful. And it's takes longer than we'd like, but I guess
it's meaningful. But I just, not to spoil my line in the doc, but like, you could watch Shang-Chi or you go watch Linsanity YouTube clips and tell me which one is more affecting, which one is more inspiring, also that. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's the thing that all of us, speaking in the royal we there, all of us had been waiting for.
Well, I was so thrilled that you were a part of it. It made it, just for me, watching it and having, felt like magic was real, watching Linsanity happen over a decade ago. Seeing you on the doc made it even a little bit more special. I would be remiss if I let you go before I ask you at least one question about this year's Knicks. Let's see. Let's make it a good one. What are you most excited? What?
Okay, go ahead.
No, what are you most excited about? But whatever you want to go.
I'm most excited for Leon Rose to break his silence by coming on your show. Can that happen?
There is a better chance.
Can we turn the sign, like, days since Leon Rose has spoken to the public, to 0 on Knicks Film School? Can we do that? Can we get that to happen?
There is a better chance Andrew will book the ghost of Red Holzman sit in front of a microphone and talk to me about his exploits.
There's a better chance John and I are in the next Shang-Chi movie than Leon Rose coming on this program. Okay.
I've been, Pablo, I've been a little hard on Mr. Rose.
I know. Rightfully so. I mean, look, I talked to Mike Breen, and by the way, Mike, I had to say this because shout out to him, but like, terrible fire at his home. Just one of the greatest dudes. Another, by the way, Regis Illuminati, his son's Regis High School graduates. So anyway, this is all a long way of saying that I talked to Mike Breen before all of that. And he told me that Linsanity was the most special period in his life, in terms of broadcasting games, which is crazy, right? That guy called Ray Allen, right? Yeah. Ray Allen, with the best shot, you could argue, in NBA history, and so many other finals. But I say that to say that my feelings about the Knicks are that there is always this almost mythologically, it's a mythologically untapped potential where you get tastes of it with Linsanity. You got tastes of it with Breen calling the first game back, the playoff game back, with fans in the building. And me, who has sworn off the Knicks as a thing I care and bleed for, I teared up at that. And so what I'm looking forward to, despite all of my cynicism and snark, is that feeling is something that we can access again, because it's just a special, unparalleled thing in sports that we've gotten in our lifetimes, John, twice, 3 times, depending on how you rank the 90s.
I was going to say, right? I got you by a couple of years. Putting the 90s aside, because I don't know, like, I was young, but like, 99 finals run for me will always be number one. I think because I was older for Linsanity, I might put Linsanity number 2. And then after that, I got to go back to either when I was like 11 years old or 12 years old.
Yeah, we're not going Mike Woodson, unfortunately. Shout out to the magical run that he had.
That's the difference between us and a lot of fans a few years younger than us who still hold that season sacrosanct, including this person on
remember when Melo played the 4?
Yes.
Remember when they shot threes?
Yes. When he won a scoring title. Yes.
No, it was. But anyway, all of it just to say that my hope is that isn't lost. And I would like to hear people who work for this team explain why it wouldn't be if they ever deem the public worthy of their attention. Yes.
It is an issue. We can just say that.
Yes.
Last thing before I let you go, what are you excited? Forget the Knicks. What are you excited about coming up? I mean, I have obviously had the pleasure of watching your career from afar. And if I promised I was going to say this. I think when I first noticed you in SI, I think I was either just started practicing law or I was in the midst of practicing law, but I already knew I hated practicing law. And I'm like, shit, Pablo, he's writing SI freaking cover stories here. Man, I was a senior. I could have kicked that kid's ass in speech and debate when we were together. If he could do it, I could. No, but in all seriousness, you were an inspiration for me to really start to dip my toe in these waters. And your star has only shown brighter over the years that have ensued. What are you excited about moving forward from here? What do you got on tap?
I am excited that with this knowledge, I may inspire other lawyers to stop being lawyers. And I just, in all earnestness too, on that note, right? Like, A, thank you. B, I feel you, because I only wound up doing this because I bombed the LSAT.
Oh, I know you did not bomb the LSAT.
Okay. Sorry. I should contextualize this. For you, had a panic attack and freaked out about what I'm going to do with my life. Okay. And not only did I, for me, bomb the LSAT, a very fair footnote, is not only that, I took the year and studied to take it again. And I did. And in that intervening time, I went to Sports Illustrated and became a fact checker and went on that path. And only through like that, by my interpretation, like brutal failure, did I wind up doing this. Like I can relate so much to the idea of like, I wanted to do X, wound up doing Y. And now I just am so thankful that Y is now my Y. Wow. This has got corny at the very end. But yeah,
oh, that was good.
That was good. So if I can just continue to do work that justifies that part of the fork in the road, ESPN Daily, Debatable. This is where I just crassly promote the things I do for ESPN.
Promote away.
No, it's just those things. I'm proud of them. I think they're ambitious. Hopefully they're worth people's time. So yeah, man, that's what I'm mostly excited for. Well,
I think the hardest thing to do in certainly sports media, maybe all of media, to do today now, nowadays, is to make something that, as you say, is worth people's time, but people will also give it their time, and enough people will give it their time Absolutely. To make the people writing the checks continue to want to put it out there. And you have managed to toe that line better than anyone can over a long time now. I can't wait to see what comes up next for you. Thank you for doing this, and congrats again on the doc. You are a part of the story, man. It is your story.
No, I thank you. And I just hope that when Linsanity is performed as a duo interpretation, those binders do justice, John, to our story.
On that note, Pablo Torre, everybody.